I mean, it's certainly legible.
Okay, let me get started. I'm going to cover astrophotography, but a specific aspect of it, not deep space photography, but more nightscapes. So the four topics I will cover are the Milky Way photography, briefly, Northern Lights, even though we live in Florida and we don't get to see them, it's something that, we can do when we travel up north. Star trails, I've just gotten into that and I'll tell you what I've done. And meteor shower. General equipment required for these types of photography is a tracker which would track the sky, a lens that creates the image, the camera records it, a controller that coordinates the shoot. So if you're having multiple images taken, it would coordinate that, and a computer to process the images after you're done. The general workflow for astrophotography is you plan the shoot, set up your equipment, making sure that you have it in the right location, etc. You polar align. If you're using a star tracker, that means you align your setup to the North Pole. You frame your objects that you're looking for and establish focus by magnifying a star and getting focus that way. You shoot what are called subs, which are individual images, stack these subs, post-process them, and archive. So that's the general workflow. In planning resources, there are a multitude of apps that one can use, from determining which is the area with the least light pollution, using a light pollution map, determining what your weather is going to look like, whether you have clouds, wind, humidity. That's called Clear Outside. Stellarium is a popular app to determine where you're going to shoot, where the objects are, which ones are above the horizon and which ones are below. And then PhotoPills is a popular app to plan your shoot as well as get camera settings. But as a reminder, always shoot in moonless nights, windless, and cloudless conditions. General equipment checklist. You want a high ISO, low noise camera, because you're probably going to jack up your ISO quite a bit because some of these objects are quite faint. So you want low noise. A wide angle lens, preferably with a focal length less than 24 millimeters. So this gives you an idea of how much of the Milky Way you can capture. And you can see between 24 and 14, you can catch a pretty broad swath of the Milky Way. You also need a fast lens with an f number of less than 2.8. You can see over here that even 2.8 is cutting out a lot of the light you're getting into your camera. So preferably 1.4 or 2 f number for your lens will give you a little bit of an idea of how much light you lose. If you have 100,000 lumens coming into your camera with an f2.8, only about 12,500 lumens hit your sensor. So you've lost about 80% of the potential light you could be capturing. So it's important to get faster f-stop. A stable tripod with a level and a ball head. L bracket if you want to orient your camera to portrait shots. A star tracker if necessary. It's usually a good idea for Milky Way photography, but not for the others. Remote shutter and intervalometer. Lights for using to see where you're going, as well as painting the foreground. And in Florida, the most important, bug spray. Here's a little bit about star trackers. I've got 5 in here. They cost each of them cost about $500, so they're not that expensive. The iOptron Sky Guider, which is right in the middle here, is mounted on a tripod with the ball head on it and camera and lens. The Fornax Light Track 2, which I have, also is the same setup. And Skywatcher has a weighting arm that sort of balances the weight of the camera and lens so that the star tracker is not stressed. There are also recently released an all-in-one solutions which have camera, lens, program, and motors all in one little unit that's maybe 6 inches by 4 inches. And the C Star is about the same. I'll give you a little bit more detail about each of these. Here are the weights of each of these. They're about maybe 3 to 5 pounds. And the payload, which is the weight of your camera, lens, and ball head, is between 11 and 13 pounds. The first 3 do not provide camera and lens, but the last 2 do. So this one has 1 sensor, 1 camera, and 2 lenses. So you can do broad views as well as telephoto views. And the C Star has just a single lens. They're all driven either by batteries or 12-volt power. They have this. Couple of them have go-to options where you can punch in the name or number of the star or location that you're going to want to shoot, and the system will go directly there and start taking pictures, whereas some of these do not have that capability. Guiding is a technique that rather than just tracking the sky at a fixed rate, a star is picked by the setup, by the equipment, and may ensure that the star is in the same location. So adjustments are made to the mount to keep that star in the same location, and that's called guiding. Polariscope is to assist in aligning your setup to the North Pole. And some of these, especially these all-in-one solutions, can be used for terrestrial applications like bird and landscape photography.
Like find over
Milky Way, it's usually a good idea to use panoramas unless you are.
So, Harold, I think you agreed with me in the sense that if Trump wins, life goes on. It's not the end of the world. Right. And Kamala wins, the world does end. It does. It's over. So I'm going to look for a couple things.
Edgar, I accidentally muted you.
Mute. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. So it's a good idea to shoot Milky Way in panorama form. So this is for a horizontal Milky Way where you get the arc, or a vertical. And I've done both of these, and they have subtle differences in how you would manage them. You have to take essentially multiple shots for each area and then stack them separately. In meteor showers, meteors are essentially when the Earth passes through the tail of a comet, and we have a schedule here of the different meteors. We just saw the meteors from the constellation Orion with when we passed through Halley's Comet, and that was in October, and the rate of meteors were about 20 per hour. We're coming on to constellation Leo in November, and it's going to be about 15 rate per hour. December is going to be a good one from Gemini at the rate of 140 meteors per hour. Wow. So that will be a good one to capture, and it occurs in December. if you point your camera to the center of the meteor shower, as shown by some of these apps, you'll get a starburst effect. And but there'll be many images that you take that won't have any meteors in them, and you need to discard them and retain only the ones that do have the meteor. These are star trails, and this is when instead of having pinpoint stars, you expose for long enough where the stars move and create a line. And if you point away from Polaris, you'll get linear trails, whereas if you point to Polaris, you'll get these circular trails. This picture I took last night, pointing at Polaris right from my driveway. So it's possible to do it right from your home. Some of the settings, the Milky Way and star trails, you can use low ISOs, whereas meteor showers and northern lights, because they tend to be fairly dim, require you to bump up your ISO quite a bit. The star tracker is preferred for Milky Way, but definite no-no for these other three. Exposures, long exposures for the Milky Way, and shorter ones for star trails, meteor showers, and northern lights. In terms of the number of subs, you would take about 10 per direction across the arc of the Milky Way, about 200 for star trails and meteor showers, because you're going to probably, in a meteor shower case, you're going to probably throw away, 70% of them, because there are no meteors. In northern lights, if you're just taking a snapshot, it's a single exposure. Otherwise, if you want a time lapse, you take 20 exposures. You would pre-process them by stacking, and I've shown you some of the ways that you can stack. And if you want to create a video, either with star trails or northern lights, StarStax is a good program. I always shoot in RAW and in manual mode, because that gives me the most control of post-processing. Thanks. Any questions? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. No questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Edgar.
All right, let's see.
Very exciting
Let's
stuff.
try and, okay, are you back?
Actually,
Yeah.
if it's not too late, I do have a question, Edgar.
Sure.
Thank you. You had 5 of the trackers up there. And
Yes.
you mentioned now were the first 3 about 500. There was 2 others. The first 3 you use with your camera, correct?
Yes.
And then the other 2 were they had a camera attached, or I kind of lost it there.
Yeah, the other 2 come with a camera and lens built in. The first 3, you have to provide the camera and lens. It's
And,
just essentially a mount that you put on a tripod. But the last 2 do have a camera and lens. Unfortunately, you're stuck with what they provide. But if you're traveling, for example, going away, that's a great solution, because it's these are like little boxes
What type of lens did you use
for
for the
my
one that was?
for my work.
Yes.
If I'm shooting broadband, I've got a 16 millimeter f1.8.
Okay.
It's a Viltrox. That great lens.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no more questions, any final thoughts, Edgar?
No, I think we'll if there are events like, for example, the upcoming meteor shower, if there's interest, we can organize something around it, so that a group could go out and see how it's done and practice. We've done this with the Milky Way, but we could do it with star trails or meteor showers, and maybe not northern lights, but
Mhm.
we'd have to go to Iceland for that.
Well, great. I'll talk to Nancy about working with you to set something up.
It
Okay.
looks like your driveway's great. We'll meet you there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Edgar, for
All right. Thank
Tech
you.
Talk.